friends, welcome to the Philippine American Couple channel. We're going to do another little episode of Chitchat Time, and today we're talking about being married to a Filipina. And this is my good friend Mark, who, guess what, happens to be married to a
Filipina.
Mm-hmm. So Mark, why don't you just give us a little background on you?
On me?
Yeah, just you.
Not much to that. I mean, just a regular guy. You know, born in Memphis, grew up in Tulsa, and fell in love with photography and worked as a photojournalist for many years, and now I have my own business that does commercial photography, and it has been wrecked by COVID to some extent, but you know.
And Mark really is a professional photographer. You know, there's a lot of us that think we're photographers.
Yeah, that's how I paid the bills for like 20 years of my life. So yeah, I worked in a newspaper, you know, as a photojournalist, actual newspaper, and newspapers and sports photography, covering NCAA sports, SEC football, basketball, that stuff, and been doing a lot of commercial stuff, a lot of stuff for Walmart and some of the larger companies here in Northwest Arkansas, and a lot of that's been changed because of COVID, but you know, I think a lot of people's lives have. But I married my wife, Alona. She's from Mindoro in the Philippines. I met her here in 2002 through my best friend, and his wife that he married was Filipina, and kind of just fell into the community, but met my wife in a roundabout way at the wedding. We didn't really meet, but I saw her, you know. But yeah, so we married in 2003 and been together ever since.
That's right.
I have a stepdaughter, and we're adopting in the Philippines too, and have a granddaughter from my stepdaughter, and yeah, life's been great. I mean, it's just Philippines and the Filipino lifestyle just, you know, came to be in my life in 2002. It wasn't something that I sought. Just something that happened, you know, in a good way. You know, it wasn't something, you know, I didn't really know much about the Philippines before that.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long have you guys been married then?
We've been married 18 years.
18
years this month. Yeah, not too long from now. I
just
just realized that. Just a few days away.
Don't forget.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Now you guys were married in the U.S. then?
Yeah, we were married here. We had a JP wedding. There, you know, some circumstances going on in our private lives, but yeah, we were married.
Well, simple's good.
In our home. It was simple. Yeah, just we didn't have a big church wedding. We're still going to do that though. Been promising her that for a long time, so make good on that promise soon, and we'll do that in the Philippines, because I mean, we could have a few people here, but we'd have a lot of people there.
Yeah, so a lot more fun there.
Yeah, more fun there too. Yeah.
Oh
definitely.
My God.
I'll be sweating like crazy, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that you really didn't know anything about the Philippine culture or the Philippines before you met her.
Right. I mean, I had friends that were Filipino, and I don't know. It's just like if you had a friend that was from any other country, you know where they're from, but you may not know anything about that country, where they're from, you know, and their culture or anything. And we had a friend when I lived in Denver when I was going to photo school out there. That was a good friend, and you know, but I didn't know anything about Filipinos really, even through him, because I think he was doing everything he could to create his own identity, and so he didn't really want to talk much about who he was. You know, it was really. I think Filipinos can be that way too. They can be kind of you know, reserved in their own private lives, and just something I never pushed to pursue. You know, I mean, you know, people are people to me on their own merit, who they are in front of me. It's like where they're from really doesn't make a big difference. So I mean, it doesn't matter where you're from, what color you are. You're a human being, another person. So yeah. So I mean, but then meeting my wife, you know, and then going to the Philippines for the first time, it really, well, just meeting her, and that's when you know, I really started absorbing the culture, because you know, friends are friends, but the love interest is somebody you really want to get to know who they are, and you want to impress them, and maybe
you want to study their culture,
learn some of their language, maybe, you know, just to impress. So you really kind of dive deeper into something that you wouldn't have normally, and that's really. And then, you know, 2005 made my first trip there. And, what
was your impression? For your first trip to the Philippines?
First trip to the Philippines was Well, it was a little overwhelming. I mean, only because, you know, it was 2005, and you know, just the journey there. I'd never traveled that far before. I'd never been overseas. You know, I'd been out of the country once to Mexico, but yeah, it was an experience. It was an adventure. Just getting there, and but then arriving, and you leave here, you know, usually in the morning, you know, 8 a.m. or something like that, you know, and after 20 something hours of travel, you arrive there generally around midnight or 10 a.m. to midnight, depending on when it is.
Dead tired.
And but you're also, you know, the great thing about being, you know, when you're going, it's like going on vacation. You know, you could be just as tired as can be, but it's like you're just, you know, you're ready for anything, and you know, you're ready to absorb anything. And you know, just being in the Philippines, you know, the first thing out of the plane is, you know, you can feel the humidity. You feel like you're in Florida in some ways, like in July or August, even at night. And you know, it's a developing country, so you know, you're gonna get, you know, your senses are gonna be bombarded. There's noise, there's smells, you know, just things that you're not used to, and so there's a sensory overload the first time you arrive in be it Manila, I'm sure in Cebu, the congestion, you know, things like that you know, you're not used to, especially that time of night, like at midnight, you know, unless you live in like New York City or a really big metropolitan area, you know, you're kind of amazed at how alive everything still is.
At midnight.
Yeah, I mean, the first day, it's like, you know, it's like first time you ever get there, first day or the evening when you get there, it's like all these things, and then you just can't wait to go to bed, you know, because it's like, I want to see and feel and experience all of this, but I really need to get some sleep first. And generally that doesn't work very well, because again, there's that noise, even if you're in a hotel.
And the time difference.
And then, well, yeah, the jet lag is the huge thing. But again, you can push through the jet lag when your eyes are open. You know, you can be tired and still force yourself to experience and enjoy things, but it's sleeping that can be kind of hard. So I think I drank a lot of San Miguel and Red Horse, you know, my first nights there, just to help knock me out. But yeah, and just the amount of people, you know, that you encounter, you know, at any given point along the way, you know, it's just more than you're used to. It's just a big city. A lot of people live in Manila. 12 million people,
Manila.
I think. Yeah, flew into Manila,
Okay.
and a lot was different in 2005. I mean, today it's a lot more organized and a lot more. You know, Duterte's done a lot to clean up the appearance, or you know, around their gateway, which is, you know, does a lot to help. Not that things were bad or whatever. It's just, you know, maybe just, you know, the littering and all that stuff. It's just cleaner.
It's more like Florida.
Yeah, and the traffic is better, a lot better in Manila, especially because there's rules that people have to abide by now. Yeah, I mean, the main thing is sensory overload.
So how long were you there for your first trip?
First trip we were there for a month.
A month.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd never been on vacation anywhere, anytime
That
for a
long?
month. I was just like, that was weird itself, you know, that time. But you know, you never go to the Philippines and spend less than, I mean, 2 weeks is never enough.
it's not.
Yeah,
Because if you're going to spend 24 to 30 hours on a plane,
and the jet lag.
you need to be there for a while.
And if you've never experienced extreme jet lag before, the rule is you have 1 day for every hour of jet lag to recover. So I mean, if you're 14-hour time difference, it says it right there. That is 2 weeks, and you think, no, that's not going to be that bad. But yeah, especially when you come back, going there again, you're pushing through it. You're forcing yourself to enjoy it and not let these things bother you, because you're experiencing all these new things. But man, when you come home, like a week and a half later, you know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like your eyes just start burning, you know, and you're just, wow, this is as bad as everybody says it is.
So did your opinion or thoughts about the Philippines change in those 30 days?
I really kind of went into it with, maybe opinions because of what I read or heard, maybe, or seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is before really YouTube came into its own, because I had YouTube in 2005, maybe. But, it was a lot of reading, and stuff like that, but a lot of what people were telling you. And I think what a lot of people were telling me didn't always come to pass or be true in my experience. I mean, like, okay, being a photographer, being a photojournalist, I mean, the whole experience to me was one big photo safari, because I was gonna, bring my experience back and publish it, in the local paper, like in the travel section or something like that. And one of the things that that had been hammered into me was the fear of theft, but carrying very expensive items. I've got about, in a backpack, I'm carrying, 2 camera bodies, in a variety of lenses. So,
money
on paper, about $15,000-$20,000 worth of camera gear with me, but I consider it as a working vacation in some way.
I would have been paranoid.
I was very paranoid. It's like I got the travel safe, like the wire mesh net bag that you can lock on, like, to the plumbing in your hotel room and stuff like that. I mean, just the thief wants something bad enough, they'll have the tools to get it, but they can't just, like, grab and dash with something. They're gonna have to work to get it. But I mean, and going into areas like the Divisoria or Quiapo markets, and granted, in those days, today again not so much, because there's been a lot of security added in Manila. But in those times, it's like, if I hadn't been diligent about what I was doing and the way I was presenting myself, I could have been a victim of theft or something like that. But I never even came close to experiencing that. I've never felt threatened or like something was going to happen to me. It was more just always being aware of your surroundings. Now, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff over there that always makes for good stories coming back, but nothing negative ever really happened to me. And that was one thing that going into it was really concerned about, was just personal property being stolen or something like that I couldn't replace immediately. I had insurance, but you can't replace a camera the moment it's stolen. So that was my big fear of not having my tools with me to do a little bit of work while I was there. But
back in those years, one of the concerns that we all heard about was the bullet scam, and so I made sure that I double, triple, quadruple checked my luggage the first time I went.
Yes, everybody was saran wrapping their luggage and everything. It's like, we traveled within that period of time, but I think we even, it was just, we're not going to worry about this. I mean,
But now I have no fears, no worries.
Yeah, it's not a deal anymore. I mean, that was like a small period, like a year or two, something like that. But there's scams. I mean, you can be scammed walking down the street here in America just as easily as it could happen in another country, let alone the Philippines. So if you've ever been to another country, after going to the Philippines, and we went to Italy a couple of years later, because when you marry a Filipina or a Filipino, you marry a very large family, and chances are that they have relatives or family members that are in other countries around the world too. So you almost always have a place you can travel to, and have a couch to sleep on, or a free bed or something like that. But
it's a good thing.
We were in Italy to visit her sister, my wife's sister, and did a lot of traveling over there. And Italy is, places in Rome and stuff, you're more likely to get your stuff stolen there than you would even in Manila. So I mean, there's it's just all about common sense when you travel. But that was the one preconceived ideas. But it's like, I didn't. I knew Filipinos. I knew there was going to be a very friendly environment. I knew most people would speak some English, and
how did you find the people?
Oh, I mean, so here's one experience I had with somebody that later on, maybe only a few years back, that if you go there, you have to go there with just an open heart and open mind. And if you go there reserved and even going back to my first trip there, I wasn't really reserved. I was just I was aware. I wasn't trying to limit myself in places to go or anything. Just go with the flow. Just like you would anything else in life. If you don't, if you want people to look at you in a weird way, well then act that way. You know what I mean? It's like, so if you go around looking at people, staring at them and looking at them as a suspect everywhere you go, then people are going to look at you and respond to you that way. So, but if you walk around smiling at everybody, being pleasant, and saying hello, and and generally just being a nice person to everybody, you're going to get that in kind. So, but there was a situation where another American that I knew was in the Philippines for the first time, and we were like, we were in the province, but he was sitting there looking at people, and he was like, why are they staring at me? It's like everybody's just, they stare at me. It's like, or he'd just be talking under his breath, what are you looking at? Somebody, and I'm like, people are just curious about you. It's like, especially if you go in the province, it's like they don't see foreigners that often. So it's like, to them, it's like you are an anomaly. So they look at you through suspicious eyes, but not suspicion like in a bad way, but they're just curiosity, in a curious way. That's like, instead of just looking back at them, Smiling. Just smile back at the other person, the people, the children looking at you, and you'll realize that they're going to smile right back at you, and it's going to just flip everything around the way you're perceiving it. And he's like, oh, and he did, and it was like, you're right, the next day or whatever. I was like, yeah, it's like, everybody here will love you, if you just love them back, or just show them that you're a kind person and not, some stuffy American or stuffy foreigner.
Well, a lot of times they want to talk to you.
They want to exercise their English skills.
That's right.
Yeah, they want to stretch their English legs. Yeah, and learn some Tagalog while you're there. Learn or whatever dialect in the area that you're in. Learn just the basics of that language. The hellos, goodbyes, water. Any word that because if you speak just limited Tagalog to people, you will endear yourself to them more so than they are to you, I guess. They will just wrap themselves around you, with love and respect.
But I think you touch on a great point, that if you're going to go to the Philippines with a nasty attitude,
or somebody who's bothered, or it's like, I don't like that,
don't go.
If you're somebody who can't go, the way I look at it, if you're going to go to the Philippines, great. But if you can't go camping and have a good time, then don't go to the Philippines. If you can't step out of your comfort zone
that's a good way.
For a week or two, like if you would go on a camping trip or whatever, and be without the creature comforts of your life, the things that you need, be it like, a soft bed to sleep in, or air conditioning. Air conditioning is a big thing at all times. I mean, most places you'll stay will have air conditioning, in the bedrooms at least, especially hotels. But even locals, relatives of whoever it is you're traveling with, will probably have an air conditioner in a bedroom or something. But if they don't, again, you'll live. It may be a little uncomfortable, but again, you're bringing yourself to their not to their level, but to their life,
to their culture,
and to their culture. And you're if you treat it with respect, or just the curiosity that they give you, and just endure it, I guess. You'll come off a much better person, but you'll come off as having a much better experience interactively with other people.
I tell people, and I've said this I don't know how many times, and I still think it's important. The funny thing for me is, when I go to the Philippines, I become a better person. I actually become nicer.
Yeah, you do.
Because people are nicer. Mm-hmm. They're more polite. Mm-hmm. So in turn, you ingratiate yourself to a more of a positive vibe. And I don't like that.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody in America's pissed, but in the Philippines.
Well, here it's like, if you go to somebody's house or whatever, they may treat you with, not indifference, but it's like, you're just another person in the house or whatever. But if like if you're traveling over there and you go to somebody, like your wife takes your husband or your significant other takes you as a visitor to a relative's house or whatever, you're treated as an honored guest, because that's Filipino hospitality. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. It's above and beyond what you would experience here on a regular basis, and it's just the way that they are, the way that the Philippines is. Hospitality is synonymous with the Philippines.
And it's important to understand, because I think there's a lot of guys that don't get this, that when you do go over there, and if you are treated like the honored guest, then you need to behave like the honored guest.
Yeah.
You don't snub.
act like
The
a spoiled
food.
American, you know, or
Yeah.
try things. You know, you may not like something, but at least try it. You
That's
know,
right.
I mean, there are limits. You know, I mean, you know,
Don't say, oh my God, that's so
oh,
gross.
that's terrible or
Yeah,
whatever.
no.
Just try it and say, you know, I'm just, you know.
Think I like Dolly be better.
It was okay, but you know, no, I don't need any more. Thank you. You know, that sort of thing. But yeah, and the main thing, just realize you're a guest in somebody else in another country.
That's
you know,
it.
I mean, the last thing you want to do is come across as a spoiled,
Rich and
entitled American somewhere. I mean, I've seen that
Me
firsthand
too.
over there, and not just Americans, but other, you know, other nationalities, other Asian countries that come there too. And
As well.
it's amazing how crazy people, you know, some people that can be very reserved in their country, but they get to the Philippines and they just act out of their minds. You know, it's like screaming and hollering and
We saw a
just
lot of
getting
that.
hammered,
Yeah.
drunk. You know, I mean, it's like, I mean, you have plenty of opportunities to drink and be merry there, but just don't get hammered, drunk, and be sloppy and embarrassing. I mean,
I agree.
do that here, you know, where people can, you know, maybe understand it a little more. It's over there because they just don't expect that of guests in the country.
Yeah. So would you ever want to live in the Philippines?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're planning as, you know, ultimately retirement in our future. My wife would like to go and live there tomorrow, but I'm not ready for that right now. I mean, still have a lot of things to do and going on here, responsibilities that I'm just not ready to cut ties with, family and all that. I mean, I can see splitting my time there, you know, maybe 60-40 or something like that on an annual basis, but I'm not ready to let go of this country yet. I mean, there are creature comforts and things that, you know, here that you know, if you're from the United States, you're from your home, wherever your home country is, that yes, I mean, there are things that you're not willing to necessarily go without for good, you know, maybe not at the moment. And, you know, I like my seasons. I like to have a summer and a winter and, you know, have a cool and a hot period and not just always a hot period. I sweat profusely. So I sweat from the moment I get there to the moment I leave. You may take a shower, but you're sweating while you're taking a shower. It's like, I mean, unless you're in an air-conditioned environment all the time, that's just not practical over there. And it's just, unless you, even central air conditioning is not practical. Usually they're air conditioners. I mean, there are homes in, like that may have it, but not every home.
Now, one tip I'll share with you guys that I learned, because I sweat too. I'm an old fat guy, so I love the heat and I don't mind sweating, but you know. But one thing I learned was if you take, not deodorant, what's the other one?
Perspirant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you rub it on your head.
Yeah.
You rub it on your head really well. And then it cuts down the sweat.
It does?
Yeah.
I thought you might like boil up on the inside though. It's
We
like,
may do that
where's it
too,
where's it
but,
gonna go at that point?
But that's something
Yeah.
that I saw on YouTube some old guys like us with no hair would do to help them contain some of their sweating.
But just regular antiperspirant, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a hot mess over there, let me tell you.
So-
I mean, on a regular basis. One thing I think in my up until I had gone to the Philippines, I don't think I've ever owned a tank top or a wife beater, as we like to call them here in the U.S. I still cringe when I hear that, but
Yeah.
that's what most people call them anymore. But anyway, I now own many of them. You know, it's not something I just ever saw fashionable, but man, over there, it's like
And
you
that's
catch
the
me at
same.
home. That's what I'm wearing until we go somewhere, because I'm in shorts. I have as little clothing on as possible just to minimize my sweating. But I'm usually parked in front of a fan. If I am in the house, not in the bedroom, in front of an air conditioner. But you know, if it's in the summertime, it's really hot. I'm generally spending my heat of the day time in the bedroom under the air conditioner, just because, you know, I just get tired of sweating through my clothes. Or if I put dry clothes on, I'll go through like 2 pairs of shorts and several shirts over the course of a day just because of that. Yeah, that's one thing. And then sweat rags too, bandanas.
Wipes. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm with
well,
you.
I probably have 30 to 40 bandanas at the house here that I take over. I have stuff over there too. If you do have a home there, relatives or a house there, it's good to have leave behind, so don't have to always carry everything. If you do go to the Philippines, if you are a hot or warm natured person, if you do get hot and sweat a lot, don't take more than 1 or 2 pairs of jeans. 1 or 2 pairs of jeans total, because you won't wear them unless you're one of these people that can wear blue jeans when it's 100 degrees outside. I can't. I just won't. I might wear like hiking pants, like kind of like what I'm wearing now, but man. And then don't take long sleeve shirts unless you're planning on, I don't know, being in an air conditioned environment, or you can handle that. But I would take these things every trip. I think our last trip was my 11th trip, and now I'm down to 1 pair of jeans and maybe 1 pair of kind of dressy pants or whatever. Maybe a long sleeve shirt if we're gonna be like in Manila at some nice place or something like that. But the rest of it is shorts, tank tops, t-shirts, sweat rags, underwear and socks. It's like, I know what I'm gonna wear when I go over there now. It's like I may look like a tourist, but I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to be comfortable. It's hot over there. That's the one thing that you can't escape. So many other things can be. You can turn around as far as if there are any unpleasantries, you can turn those things around. Make them not be pleasant. But that's the one thing that if you just don't like the excessive heat, that's the one thing you just got to be prepared for.
So what would have to happen in your life for you to say, okay, we're ready to go full time?
Well, I think just family here. I don't know. I'd say outlive relatives or something like that, but that's not really what I mean. But I don't know. Just like I said, I'm just so we're so set in our ways and what we want to have in our lives all the time. I'm a shooting enthusiast. I have firearms too, and that's one thing. You're gonna have to kiss those goodbye. It's like leave them with a relative or sell them off if you don't plan on being here, because you can't take them with you.
No, only citizens can own firearms in the Philippines.
Yeah. Healthcare. It just depends on where you're at. It's not to say there's not good healthcare in the Philippines, but if you're in the provincial area, it's like that's one of the concerns too. Is is access to. If I don't have any health concerns right now, but it could be down the road. You never know. And if in an emergency, if you're not in a large area that has a good healthcare system, that could be a serious thing. That you have to consider. Not right now, it's not a big deal, but that's just one of those things that you have to think long term about too. Yeah, your health and your comfort, I guess, are two big issues. My wife has been here all this time, and she wants to go back. She'd like to spend more time there. I understand that, but it's that you're here, and so we have all these things and everything we need. It's like wanting to leave and go there now at this point in our lives while we're still young. She wants to enjoy a lot of that while she's still young, and I understand that. But I see that as we can still do that as a back and forth thing, just spending more time there as opposed on those trips or those swapping times, being like snowbirds here.
Yeah.
Like people move south for the winter and they go back to where they're from up north in the summertime.
So what do you guys do when you go back every year? Are you tourists or
we travel? We travel. The last couple of times, I think the timing has been bad because of weather. We were gonna. The next time we go to the Philippines, probably this would be our 4th attempt to get to go to Palawan, which Palawan is not very far from Mindoro, but it's the way we're planning on going. It's like you can either go from Manila, you can fly, or you can from Mindoro, from southern Mindoro, San Jose, you can take the ferry. But it's like 5 or 6 hours, something like that, over the open ocean, and you don't want to be on that open ocean if there's bad weather on a ferry. There's not that I think it's not a regular occurrence, but I've been there in times where there's been a really bad weather or typhoon where ferries have sunk, and people have lost their life because they were maybe the ferry, the ship, the company that runs the ferries should not have set sail, but they did anyway. So your life is in somebody else's hands in that situation. But anyway, so we have made it, so we're going to make that. But we've traveled around. We've been to Boracay several times. We've been, around Luzon, been to Bohol and parts of Cebu, Panglao, a lot of places we want to see. But we're homebodies too. I mean, when we get there, there's a lot of local spots in Mindoro, like local beaches that are, kind of really, they've been to this point, like really best kept secrets of the area, but they're getting more and more attraction, across the rest of the country now. But all these like just hidden gems, local areas, and that's the great thing. Once you get there, is wherever your significant other is from there, is to explore their area, because there's always a lot to see and do in those areas too. It may not look like it, but just they'll know.
Trust me, there is.
Yeah, there is.
There is.
I mean, there's 7,000 islands there, and every island is in its own way has its own ecosystem that's unique to that island. So, I mean, in Mindoro, there's the indigenous tribes there, the Mungyans. They're indigenous to that island, nowhere else. They've got I just found out last night, we were watching the National Geographic Explorer or something like that. It was the Philippines. There was a Philippines animals episode, and they were talking about Mindoro, and these they're like midget carabao.
Huh.
So they're midget water buffalo that only exist on Mindoro, and there's only like 200 of them left.
Wow.
So they're on the verge of extinction. So they're endangered. They're under conservation efforts too. So, but yeah, things like that you just don't know about your area. And go to a cockfight while you're there. Experience that. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've been to several. It's one of the. It's not the national sport, and it may be. Depends on who says it, but basketball I think is really the national sport of the Philippines.
Yeah,
but cockfighting is a close second or a tie with first or something like that.
They definitely get excited about it.
Yes, I don't know what's going on, but it's always a great experience.
Very exciting about that. So, in all the years you've been married and the trips that you made, what are some of your favorite cultural things that you find in the Philippines and nowhere else, maybe?
Well, the food. The food is number one, but just the hospitality. I mean, there's nowhere else I've been anywhere that's as friendly as the Philippines. That's fun.
It's nice, isn't it?
It is. It's very nice. And just a lot of the natural beauty. Sometimes you see that spoiled because of pollution and littering and stuff like that. It can be kind of disheartening to see that, but I think that's slowly changing too. People are starting to really, you've got to ingrain it in the younger generations, and it's just that's how it works its way out of it. But I don't know. Just I think everything about it. It's hard for me to like single out anything. I mean,
do you have a favorite food?
Favorite food. My favorite thing in the Philippines is zagu, which is their this kind of. It's kind of trite, I guess but say it's not really cultural. It's just they're like a bubble tea or bubble shakes, like tapioca pearl shakes, drinks. It's like I'm so addicted to those when I go there. It's like first thing when we're in Manila, it's like I find out where one is, if whatever mall. They're in every mall, but they also have one in Mindoro, like the next town to the north of our town in Mindoro. There's a zagu there, so it's like I'll get in the vehicle or get in a tricycle and just go there 20 minute ride just to have that one thing. They're that good.
Well, here's something you may not know. We love bubble tea also. We just did a video on bubble tea in Fort Smith.
Yeah.
There's a bubble tea store in Fort Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not tea though. They're just more like shakes.
Yeah.
That's the difference though. It's like here, you hear bubble tea or boba tea or whatever they call it, but it's tapioca pearls and just like flavored ice.
And that's what these are.
Right.
These are,
Ube flavor though.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the ube, which is
purple.
purple.
Purple one.
Yeah.
If it's purple, I'll drink it. If it's not ube flavor, I'll probably be disappointed, but I'll still drink it anyway. I love the beer there. I love San Miguel beer. I like Red Horse. I like San Mig Light or San Mig, they call it. San Miguel.
A lot of good food though, right? Isn't it?
Oh yeah, the food. I mean,
it's so fresh.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything's
colorful.
fresh. I mean, just the seafood. I mean, if you put it down to that, it's like, one of the things I crave the most when we get there is just fresh seafood. And if you're in a rural area, especially in the province, and if it's a seaside, which my wife's place is, there's fresh fish daily coming in from the fishermen from overnight. You can go down to the beach and buy them straight off the boat. Or put the word out that we're in town, and the fishermen would have a big catch with the right kinds of fish. Usually, if it's like one of the things I learned, it's like if it's got a big face on it, it's good to eat. It could be a big fish with a small face, that's not good. But if it's like a big fish with a human-sized face, the big eyes and big mouth and all that stuff, it is the best thing in the world to eat. Yep. I mean, if it's a big face fish.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I was like, really, that's the criteria, but apparently it holds true. Shrimp and prawns there, it's like, I try to find the biggest, prawns I can usually because it's like just ridiculous how cheap it is, especially in the province. But I'll burn myself out on that really fast. Yeah.
No,
I never ate besides
so
calamari, I never ate squid in my life until I got over there, and then I'm eating it. Doesn't have to be breaded, just has to be off the grill. Eat that. Everything's just fresh there. That's the main thing that you said.
Even if you go to the restaurants, the food is fresh.
Yeah.
You see the chicken cooking in the rotisserie. And comparatively cost wise.
Yeah.
You can eat like a pig over there for.
Oh yeah. Well, your family eats like a pig because very rarely do you go out and it's just you and your significant other. Usually, the one thing to get used to when you go there, and if anybody is just not aware that's just starting a relationship with somebody from the Philippines is we don't see it that way here necessarily, but it is there, and you're just going to be used to it when you start a relationship with it or get married, especially. You inherit the family, whether you want to or not. It's like so her family or his family becomes your responsibility. I mean, so that's just the culture. And then it's not a burden. I'm not trying to put it in a burden sense, but some people are just very inclusive. In their lives, and they just want it to be me and you, and that's it. Well, this is never going to be that way unless they have no family over there, which is never the case either. So my wife has 9 sisters and one. No,
wow.
She has 8 sisters and 1 brother.
That's a big family.
Yeah, it's a big family, and that's about. And I mean, I've seen larger over there too. I thought that was big. It's like 15, 16. They'll give the Duggars a run for their money over there, but. So I mean, if you go out to eat and stuff like that, or you do things, you're going to have an entourage with you, and but it's not like you're picking up an extra burden because you could spend the same amount of money the two of you would spend to go out to dinner here in the U.S. So I mean, it's
easily.
Yeah. I mean, you just get used to it, and it's fun.
And especially
it just makes it more fun, because you're not sitting there, you don't have awkward moments anymore because every moment is full of things. You know what I mean? It's like you're filled to the brim with happiness, love, family, and all that stuff when you're over there, and experience. And
a lot of places have unlimited rice, so they are very, very happy about it.
Just be sure the rice has been washed several times, especially if it's local rice that's comes straight from the mill, because I always seem to get the lucky stone, which is what I always call it. You're chomping down on rice while you're eating, and there's like a rock or something in there that didn't get cleaned out, because, you'll notice that the rice is usually dried on the ground, on the roadside in a lot of cases. You're driving along, there's no shoulders in the Philippines on the highways because the shoulders are used for utility means like drying rice or other crops out, so you can't veer on the shoulder without destroying somebody's livelihood. And the fruit. The fruit is like, you're gonna run into fruit, that alien looking fruit, things you've never heard of,
so good,
things you've never imagined, some things you may never want to try more than once, but it's seasonal, so it's like you go there one trip, they may not have it the next. If you go a different time of year, mangoes are like you've never had a mango here like you've had there,
fresh off the tree.
Yeah, I mean, they're fresh off the tree, ripe, instead of like picked a month early from Mexico and shipped in, and they're chemical ripened. But
jackfruit,
jackfruit. Never been things I haven't tried in the Philippines. Durian and balut. I've photographed balut many a times. It's been in front of me, but
we had durian here at the house a couple
I
weeks
haven't been
ago.
drunk enough to eat balut yet. Really, I mean, it's like I know it
Yeah.
smells like chicken soup, but it don't look like it.
You don't know. That's the duck egg with the embryo.
Yeah.
That's what balut is. I haven't tried it either.
Yeah,
I haven't
some
been that
people
brave.
do. Usually, you have to have a little liquid courage in you to do it.
I think I would need a lot.
I'd have to have a lot too.
Yeah. But durian, we actually had some here at the house the other day.
Yeah, I've heard it
Stink
tastes.
up my house.
It tastes like boiled onions or cooked onions or something like
It
that.
just stinks.
Yeah. But and don't try to take a durian on the planes. You can't bring one home with you, no matter how much in love you are.
You can't take it to the hotel either.
Yeah,
Same
most
thing with
hotels
dried
won't allow it
fish.
either. Yeah, dried fish too. Yeah, the dried fish thing is not my forte. I've tried it, but again, it's just like anything. It's what you've grown up on. It's your comfort food.
That's right.
In one way, shape, or form, at some time in your cultural past, it was a survival food, right?
Yes.
But now it's still a cultural staple. So I mean, that's one of those things. If you cook it, it's got to be done outside.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, unless everybody in the house tolerates it, but it just smells. It's a very pungent smell.
So is there something that you picked up in the Philippines that you kind of find yourself doing or liking here in the United States? A food or an act, a behavior that
I think it's just more than just trying to be more tolerant of things that that I'm not used to. I mean, and then you just by nature, it's like if you weren't. I've never been a really picky person when I eat, but I think you can grow up with being told lies by your family about things. Like, I didn't eat guacamole, I didn't eat an avocado until I was in my late, probably 18, 19, 20 years old or something like that, because every time we go to a Mexican restaurant and somebody ordered it, my parents would say, "Oh, that's gross, you don't eat that, it tastes terrible." And it's like, I believe them. So, I mean, there are people that I know that grew up not eating fish because their parents told them it was gross or they wouldn't eat it. So then they try it and they realize that they've been lied to all this time. So yeah. The one piece of advice that about there, that we're going back to the earlier question, is be mindful of what your beverage is that you're drinking, what's in it. It's not as far as like it's been spiked or anything, but the ice that's in it. Always ask that your ice is, if it's filtered ice or comes from mineral water. But if it's or where you're at, I mean, in most places now in Manila, it's like, unless there's been a lot of flooding or something like that. I mean, it's a good bet you're safe to drink a nice beverage, or something like a halo that's got crushed ice in it.
Yeah.
But if you're in the province, in like local areas, smaller areas that don't have the greatest sanitation for their water system, not to say they're not sanitary, the people aren't sanitary, but sometimes the water can be compromised. Don't learn that the hard way. I haven't.
So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who wants to marry a Filipina?
Right. First advice is to know the culture. I mean, I wouldn't even pursue a Filipina today. If I was just didn't know anything about the Philippines. You just saw a Filipina, or you were introduced to or something like that. I mean, know who they are before you get to know them. I mean, in a sense, what their cultural background is, because you can come across as too aggressive, and you may not understand their the speed at which they move. I mean, they're very conservative as a whole.
Yes.
Especially if they're not from a metro area. Like a Filipino from Manila and a Filipino from the province are two different people. One is very conservative. The other may be very, very modern, very forward. The other may be from the province, may be as far as their social interaction, like Facebook and stuff like that. But personally, deep down inside, it's like they're very conservative. So you can't be aggressive. You have to be very
Patient.
just be patient with them and understanding, and let things go at the speed that they're willing to let them move. Right? I mean, you can test that in your own way. I mean, give and take, but yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of especially Filipinos, not male or female, that are from the province. They're much more reserved in their romantic endeavors, I guess.
Well, and on the other side of them being conservative is that they're actually devoted. So they take it seriously.
Yeah, they take their relationship with you or whoever their significant other is very seriously. Sometimes more so than we might. Right?
Right.
They could be easily offended about something that, or something that you may say or comments that you make, not you're joking, but they could take it to heart too. I mean, so our humor level and their humor level can be way off, depending on what the subject matter is, right? But just kind of, let them lead in some way, or kind of, or just really communicate. That's the main thing. Just don't try to be too forward, and push things. I mean, because you'll get resistance that you may take the wrong way.
Or you don't need.
That you don't need, but it's like you may become offended by their lack of reciprocity, I guess, or just reciprocal nature that you're looking for, but in a relationship that you might have with someone from here. Even if it's if you had been or if you had a past relationship with a Filipina that's lived in America, her whole life, this is a complete 180 from somebody that's from the Philippines. They're very joyous, celebratory, and in their lifestyle of just like living. But when it comes to personal, relationship, just getting started, it can feel like you're walking through a minefield sometimes.
Yeah.
But once you get through all that, there's nothing to deter anybody here. It's just just be kind and gentle, and all that goes a long way.
So, what advice would you give yourself, looking back 18 years, that would have made your marriage better or easier? If you could go back in time, what would you tell Mark of 18 years ago?
I mean, I've made mistakes along the way, but nothing really stands out. I mean, patience is the main thing. I'm not a patient person by nature. Sometimes you have to change who you are if you're going to have your eye on the prize of what it is, who you're pursuing. I mean, not to say you got to change what makes you, but if you're an impatient person, you got to learn a little more patience. I mean, that's always been something that I've learned. I mean, I've learned that when I go to the Philippines because, Filipino time is not the
American time.
American time are two different things as far as just the patience level and, showing up and being on time for things. I mean, they can say that about any culture, but it does ring true. I mean, so I get impatient with my wife sometimes about just, being on time to go somewhere, and, I still, I get to the point now where it's like, honey, I'll be in the car, okay?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't sit there and yell at, stare at the time and look at my watch and, say how late we are. I just say, honey, I'll be in the car. And, if anyway, that, kind of works to both advantages. It's like I'm away from her, but then she knows that I'm waiting in the car, so she does need to maybe move along. I mean, but instead of saying something that you regret or what have you, I mean, because I think, we all do that at some point, but...
Is there any quirks or things that make you smile or laugh a little bit that you find that the Filipinos do?
Just the Tagalog things, not the translation, but the way they use, maybe English is used sometimes, and I'm not saying that to be like it's funny, haha. It's just sometimes it's cute. It's an endearing thing.
It is.
Right, it's endearing. It's not like something you're laughing at them for being different or weird. But yeah. And I just appreciate the concern, the devotion, and the love that you get as being the spouse or a family member to a Filipino. I mean, they not just, again, it's what you inherit, the whole family. I mean, because they all love you. You know, I've never had an argument, I think, ever with any of my wife's family. I mean, she argues with them. That's their siblings.
And it's best to stay out of that.
Yeah, don't get involved in that. Yeah, just let them sort it out. Sometimes they may be your things that I find funny, and sometimes you think that that they're having such a heated conversation that they're they're fighting. What are y'all fighting about? Oh, nothing. We're just talking, or whatever.
Yeah.
They're really sorting it out, but in a very heated, loud way. Yeah.
But it's like at gatherings.
At gatherings, it's like, the louder it is, the better it is. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
It's like, you get 3, 4, 5, 10 Filipinas together, especially the ladies, and they start laughing about something. It's like, it could be where you almost have to leave the room. It's so loud. It could be ear splitting. The giggling, the laughing, and all that. I mean, but again, that's the joyous nature of them. They love humor. They love to sing. I don't sing. I only sing when
they love that karaoke.
I only sing karaoke in the Philippines, and it's only after I've had a few drinks.
Yeah.
But they love to sing. They love to dance. I'm not a good dancer. I dance. Oh, that's that you may have to. If you don't like to dance, you may have to do a lot of dancing in the beginning. So yeah, just
and at
not ballroom
gatherings,
dancing. Just getting up and shaking your body, because that's part of the courtship with
yeah. And at gatherings, you'll find a lot of times us guys hang out and the girls hang out.
Right.
Because we actually find a quiet place to talk.
Right.
And
they find a very open place to
talk.
Scream and yell, laugh and get along and have a good time. So
do you think it's worth all of the effort, the good, the bad, the ugly? Because there's good, bad, and ugly in every relationship, without question.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you're going to run into is like, they love hard. I mean, they love to an extreme, but they also, like, if there's they're very passionate, even in their arguing.
That's right.
They're fighting, with you if you have an
And
argument.
sadness too.
And sadness,
everything,
they have a thing called tempo, which means they're upset about something. So it's basically our version of pouting, I guess you'd say.
Yes.
But they're never going to tell you what the problem is. You just have to weather the silent treatment. As much as me. I'm the person that wants to get it out right then and there, get it over with, and move on. And it's like, that's just not culturally how they do things. They want you to suffer through it for a little while, put the heat on you, make you feel bad about it, and then because in a way it makes you really kind of self-reflect and kind of work it out in your own mind. It's not maybe I was being a jerk or something like that. But
if you could ever figure it out, sometimes I can't figure it out.
If they're throwing something at you, that's not tempo. That's you really piss them off at that point.
That's right.
Yeah, don't confuse the two. It's just, one is silent treatment, the other is mad. So yeah, and don't push it. Just give them their time, because I even find myself today kind of doing that, and it's like I know in my own mind that I can't. I'm not going to force it out of her. She's just she'll come out of it, in her time, because they know at that point that you've had time to reflect on it yourself. That's the way I look at it anyway. It's like, yeah, I was a jerk, sorry, but a day later, 2 days later, sometimes maybe, things they're not mad at you anymore. They've worked through it, unless you've done something that's
really
bad, and then you really have to work that out. Not just through silent treatment. You got to really work that out. So, but like any relationship, but there's certain nuances to the culture as far as just your relationship and how you communicate to each other that are different from what we're used to as
patience
Americans.
and understanding.
Patience, first and foremost, understanding the differences and appreciate. Appreciate as often as you can. I think that's one thing, that you take things for granted and you don't show the appreciation. I think I do. I can be as guilty as that as anybody.
And I'll just throw out the fact that appreciating can be as simple as when they cook a native dish, just like my wife did last night, which I thought was kind of gross. I had to sit and eat it.
Right.
Because I have to appreciate her effort. So that's part of it.
Give credit where credit's due. Give give kudos. My wife always asks me. It's like when she cooks the things that I like, she asks me, "Is it good?" It's like it's always good. You know why? It's like it's like if I'm eating it, it's like but it's like she really wants to know that. She wants to have that praise. Just that little thing can go a long way. Sometimes you just don't realize it. Sometimes you just forget about it. So yeah, I mean they're doing a lot. Every day they think about you and worry about you. So just give them something in return.
And I think a key to this, if your Filipina is in the United States, no matter how she got here, they've given up their country. So
yeah, especially if they've come over here, that means they've sacrificed a lot to be with you. I mean, they want to be here, and their family wants them to be here because it benefits everyone,
right.
On that side. But you benefit too. I mean, don't think that
we have to appreciate their sacrifice sometimes.
Yeah, but their family benefits you, especially when you go there, because you have people that are looking after your interests, watch your back. Be it a nephew, nieces, cousins, whatever. It's like you have somebody that can vouch for you. Because in maybe some places where it's like foreigners just you wouldn't want to be as a foreigner. It's not necessarily safe. You just can't just wander off into the province, and expect for something could happen, right? I mean, there's bad people in any environment, but if you have your family member or relative or somebody there, or friends, or classmate.
Yeah.
I've never known of people that have such a connection to their classmates going all the way back to kindergarten than I had Filipinos.
That's right.
I don't know. I couldn't even tell you the name of anybody I went to kindergarten with, but boy, they do. And they
and the other thing that amazes me is whenever we travel, wherever country we're in, whatever cruise ship we've been on, airport, she seems to find another Filipino.
Oh yeah, we've been
right.
We've been on the other side of the world, and she'll run into somebody. Yeah,
and they're like sisters.
All that there. Yeah, it's like they never left. It's like they never parted ways. It's like they pick up right where they left off, and it's like I don't know. You run into somebody you haven't seen in a while. It's like you kind of have this period of like kind of catching up, and
Well, I'm talking about strangers, people that they've never met.
Oh, well, Filipino. Yeah,
like,
strange Filipino. Yeah, Filipinos are known as strangers because of the whole the kababayan. Everybody is your countryman is your neighbor. In that sense, it's like if you're a Filipino that comes here on like a work visa to this area or whatever, all you got to do is hook up with one of the local Filipinos and you're in. It's like you've got a place to go and eat, hang out, people to hang out with, and there's they treat you like they're brother or sister. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. If you're as Americans, you're walking around. If you're in another country and you see somebody, it's like you look at each other with skepticism and you're judging somebody already. I mean you do. I mean you just can't.
No, you're absolutely right. When I see other Americans, for the most part, when I've been in the Philippines, it's a quick nod.
Yeah. But
and then you go about your business.
You don't attract and sit down and have them over the house. I mean, that's happened before. I mean, it has. I mean, especially in where my wife's from, because there's very few. I mean, I could be there. I could be in her place in our place for 2 or 3 weeks and maybe see one other foreign face. I mean, there's not. I mean, in Manila, it's like every corner. There's a foreigner. But over there, it's like you can go.
We just don't have that connection to them just because they're American. We don't think of them as family.
Right.
Filipinos think that Filipino over there is family.
Right. In the most cases, yeah.
It just that's always surprised me.
And the one you will pick up before I met my wife, before I knew Filipinos, I didn't know a Filipino from Vietnamese, Laotian, Indonesian, maybe Japanese. I mean, some of them you can, some Asians you can, but but now I can pick them out of a crowd without, I mean, one, you just have to hear them talk, say
Yes.
one word and you know it's Filipino, but just because of the way they speak English, just the way Filipinos speak English in certain words, but also their mannerisms. You know, just to see the way that they, I don't know, walk, point, talk, react with things around them. I mean, it's like every, you know, can be so much different. So that's the one thing. It's like, you know, and that's how they it's so easy for, I think, for Filipinos to recognize each other. You know, it's not so much about hearing them speak or whatever, but it's just seeing how they can walk across a room, you know, or, you know, or interact with other people. So, yeah.
Well, a couple last questions, and these are kind of more philosophical. So, what would you tell, it has nothing really to do with your Filipino wife, but what would you tell the 20-year-old Mark that you could, if you could pass information back to him about life in general, what would you tell him?
About life in general, don't take things for granted. Don't take family for granted. Don't take your, especially your parents, you know, or your loved ones around you. Don't take anyone for granted. I've gone through that, you know, recently after losing my mother this year. You know, don't hesitate to say something that today that you're going to wait until tomorrow to say. You know, don't, you know, find out about, you know, history or background, or, you know, just basic simple things that you always kind of say. It's like, I can always, you know, talk to that person about. I mean, that's you know, because one day that you'll never have that opportunity again, and you'll realize that, and it's pretty impactful. Yeah.
So when you become 80 years old, right? So picture this: you're 80 years old. What is one thing that you would think the 80-year-old you would be proud that you did, or that you remember, or you would want to be known for?
Just really a lot of it has to do with the Philippines, and just being helpful, and you know, we've done a lot of things just to help people in Lawrence Town, you know, like either through, you know, fundraising or just our own generosity. You know, Alona does a lot of that, you know, and I've caught on to it. She's been very, you know, her classmates and stuff, doing a lot of charitable stuff in her town for people that are less fortunate. Yeah, just to know that I was, you know, kind and part of that, you know, that and we get that. I mean, people recognize that, so I mean that's important. You know, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, when you're 80 years old and you're looking back on your life, it's only your deeds that really matter. It's not what you have.
That's right.
It's what you've done. It's the impact that you've had on other people's lives. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's hard to have impact here, you know, because, you know, expenses, economy, just, you know, I mean, it takes a lot to go. You have to have a lot to go a long way. Over there, it takes very little to go a long way to help people. So it's like you can have a lot of impact and a lot of appreciation, and see it firsthand.
You can change a life for $100
to help change people's lives. Yeah, I mean, or change their minds about things, you know, or just their appreciation, you know, or just help their future, you know. I mean, just all those things can be done with so little over there, and for a lot of people. So that's the one thing that is important, should be to everybody, you know, is to be selfless, you know, in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to do it in your everyday life, but in some way, shape, or form throughout your life, you know, be selfless and help people. So
I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, friends, that's it for us today with this episode of Chitchat Time. I want to thank my honored guest, Mark, for coming to visit with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I greatly appreciate it, really do. I do. We love having these conversations about the Philippines. We all love the Philippines. We have an interest in the Philippines, and I think it's great for everybody to hear the good, bad, and the ugly, but mainly the good.
If you're watching this and you have no interest as far as love interest, but just thinking of a place to maybe go for vacation, try the Philippines out. It's a whole new world, and it's a beautiful place. You know, you'll be glad you did. You know, it'll be one of those things. It's like, you know, I went to the Philippines this year and it just blew my mind.
The blue line.
on what you can do and how much fun you can have. Yeah. They say it's more fun in the Philippines, and I believe it.
Take care, guys. We'll see you around the corner.
Bye.